Oh, man. It's here. Football Friday, Rivalry Week. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, halftime show.
Do you feel the levels of hate rising inside you?
Yeah, well...
Are you frothing at the mouth for your terrapins to rip apart the Nittany Lions? Because that's apparently a big heated rivalry.
No, I wish it was. It's not. Put it this way, that's 15 seconds in the microwave in heat.
I guess it was the first year that Maryland joined the Big Ten, but I think it was Maryland that tried to spark something by not shaking their hands before the game.
Yeah, well, Maryland won. I think it was the first or second game of the great Randy Edsall era, and that was Randy Edsall and Maryland. Hey, we stand on business. Penn State, their record against Maryland is like 3-100. I mean, they're like 103 against Maryland. I mean, that was one of the wins, and that was not very. Either that was the year they won, or it was the year after they won. They didn't do the handshake thing, but it was stupid, ridiculous, asinine. God.
Well, thankfully we have a real rivalry to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, Maryland tried. I mean, look, to have a rivalry, you got to actually beat somebody more than once every 20, 30 years.
That helps.
Yeah, it does. This is a real one. We got a real one here. Tomorrow, 7 a.m., we get to go with Gamecocks Game Day with Tyler and myself here from Mission Control. Noon kick in the upstate, South Carolina, Clemson. Let's get this out of the way now. I'm picking South Carolina to win this football game. I think I have Gamecock Central at 23-20, 26-23. I think it'll be tight. Clemson's a good football team. I just think South Carolina's a better football team. I just do. I think they're playing better right now. I truly believe... If you look at these two football teams, South Carolina's just better. They've played better all year. They're healthier. The way the offense has started to cook, Clemson's offense, you heard Larry Williams talking about their offense has been clunky the last 3 weeks. And they're going up against, if not the best, the second best defense they've seen all year. We saw what the best defense or the other really good defense did to them. I just think South Carolina's the better team. The game is at Clemson. I think it'll be close, but I'll take the Gamecocks, man.
I think South Carolina is the best version of a team that Clemson's seen this year. Obviously, they lost the Week 1 game to Georgia, but as we learned quickly, Georgia very up and down at the beginning of the year. They've caught a little bit of steam here as of late, and have a chance to end the regular season 10-2 today against Georgia Tech and go on to Atlanta. But that wasn't a complete team when they faced them back in week number 1. Got handled pretty easily in that game. Louisville, they're a good team, but they're not a great team, and I don't think they're on Carolina's level. They beat Clemson a couple weeks ago, and then they faced Pitt without Eli Holstein at quarterback, so they didn't have the best version of their offense in that game, and Pitt still gave them a lot of trouble. So I think as far as best versions of teams, I think Carolina's the best version of a team they've seen this entire year.
I think that's fair. When you go over that, and look, we'll do this through the show. We know South Carolina's strength of schedule is much better than Clemson's. We get it.
Yes.
But we'll kind of look a little deep dive on the offensive and defensive efficiency marks of the teams that these two squads have played. We'll do it through the show. Because, again, Clemson just hasn't faced a team. I like the way you put it, a team this complete at this point when they're facing them.
Now, if Carolina played them back in September,
different ball
we're having a different conversation.
Yes.
But this team right now is playing its best football.
I mean, yeah, they're cooking with massive flame at this point in South Carolina.
They're cooking with the hot oil you're not supposed to drop the turkey in.
You don't stick your face down to see how it's cooking.
Exactly.
So I just believe South Carolina will win. I think that, and they're a mature team. Driving up the road is not going to, oh my God, we're playing at Clemson. Because some of the guys are still in this team that 2 years ago went up to Clemson and got a W. I think matchup-wise, a beat-up Clemson offensive line who's trying to get that. I think Wes had a great line near the end of the show. Wes said, wait a minute, Clemson's trying to repiece their offensive line together. They've been piecing it together for weeks. And what's the number one thing you want in an offensive line? Continuity.
Yes.
They haven't had it. That was a great point by Wes. Must have been the tomato pie he had.
Apparently it was good.
We don't know. He didn't bring it. Thanks, Wes. So I just believe that all these signs point to a South Carolina victory. I think it'll be close. I don't think it's going to be easy, obviously. Again, circle back. Clemson's a good football team. They have talent. But I just think South Carolina right now on, November 29th, 2024, is the better football team playing better of the two. Again, you can't turn the rock over. You can't have dumb penalties. You can't shoot yourself in the feet. But if you can play the way you've been playing, this streak you're on, if you continue to play to this level, you should get on the bus or whatever you're taking from from Clemson with a win.
Yeah, I think so. Again, we've seen this team be battle-tested time in and time out this year, and obviously their strength of schedule reflects that, and I'd be very interested to see what Carolina would look like in a rematch with Alabama, in a rematch with Ole Miss. Not saying they win both those games, but it could be more competitive against Ole Miss than it was because, again, they're just playing better football as of right now. And, again, when Clemson's gone up against better teams, they've struggled. Didn't lose all those games. They did beat Pitt. Again, not a fully healthy
Pitt's
Pitt
lost
team.
4 in a row, by the way.
Again, when they've taken up a level in competition, they've struggled. And Carolina is a step up in level of competition from what they've faced most of this season. To
be fair, it's the second best team they played all year.
Yeah, I think definitely so.
So, and I look at, for example, the Missouri win. You come back and you did something with that last possession that a lot of people around here have said to me who have been around for tons of Gamecock football, that's not typically what South Carolina does in those situations. It's a different football team. You got the second most seniors in America, coupled with some young talent that is developing and progressing and playing at a high level on both sides of the ball with Dylan Stewart on defense and R. Sellers on offense. All of a sudden, your receivers are popping the last couple of weeks making plays. That's a thing. You do have continuity on your offensive line. I mean, again, is it where you want it to be yet? No, but it's better than it was. Now, the one concern I do have, and again, it's a different system of running game, but could Clemson find something on film in that Missouri tilt that they could incorporate in their style of running the football that could be trouble? Yeah, but then we heard that Phil Moffa's been banged up.
Well, that's true. And again, looking at that Pitt game a couple weeks ago, Moffa, 17 carries, 17 yards. He felt the brunt of that offensive line not being healthy. And you probably heard Larry Williams on with us, in the last hour, and he said, well, I think most of these guys should be okay, but for one, doesn't sound like they're going to be 100%, and two, you might still have some mixing and matching on that offensive line where, again, to Wes's point, we know better than anybody from last year, lack of continuity is a death sentence to an offensive line. Doesn't matter how good your running back is. Those holes aren't there. He's got a guy in his face as soon as he takes the handoff, and that could be the case tomorrow with, again, a not fully healthy Phil Moffa.
And with the injury issues and stuff going on that offensive line, one of the key matchups will be the interior of the South Carolina defense up front with Tonka and T.J. Sanders and Boogie and DeAndre Jules if ready to roll in 100%. That rotation could wear down Clemson's interior up front on offense, and maybe not in the first quarter or the second quarter, maybe somewhere midway through the third quarter and the fourth quarter, all of a sudden South Carolina in the interior is imposing their will. And any quarterback will tell you the place they hate heat the most is in their face.
Yep.
So that's one to keep an eye on for Saturday. 803-404-6100. We haven't even gotten to the college football playoff scenarios. Why don't we get our correspondent Wayne in here to give us some college football playoff scenario talk? Wayne, thanks for calling the halftime show on the game. How you doing?
Yes, sir. I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Doing great, man. Good hearing from you. What's up?
All right. So first I wanted to ask, is there like a rule with the NCAA of how many SEC components you have to play? Like right now we're playing 8. Is there a rule of how many?
No, there's not.
Technically, no. It wouldn't count towards your conference if you played an additional game.
Right.
Okay. So with the SEC and the strength of schedule, should the SEC back us up and say, okay, well, let's play 6 SEC games. Let's play 2 ACC games, 2 Big 10 and 2 Big 12, or, something in that order, so that we're not playing each other 8 games and all these other teams like Clemson and all them playing one or two top 25 teams or, high-ranked teams or anything like that. Instead of, I believe they was wanting to add an SEC team or game to the season. Would they back off a little bit for this playoffs to get more SEC teams in there?
Wayne might have snuck into that meeting with Sankey and Petiti because they're kind of trying to formulate something like that where there's a lot of crossover. It seems like the SEC is going to go to a ninth game at some point if TV is willing to pay for it, but that could be a detriment to the conference in terms of if this 12-team playoff continues.
Wayne, what you're also talking about is something called logic, like having a uniform schedule through college football to make the schedules more fair. And you quit talking the logic, Wayne. Collegiate athletics hates logic.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Because most of these teams that are in there, for instance, like Indiana, they may be a good team in their conference, but when they look at it, they took away the computer system and made it to where people are making these decisions. So it just seems like they should, reevaluate of who plays who and things like that and how many. Because, everybody knows how the SEC is.
Sure.
If Indiana had to play two SEC teams this year, would they be 10-1?
That would be probably no. And thanks, Wayne. We appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving, my man. Look, like in the NFL, there are years and times where one conference or one division is stronger than a lot of others. Like, there's been years the AFC North has been the strongest. This year you got the NFC North that's very strong. And then sometimes you have divisions like the NFC South, which, can stink. And then you get some team at 500 barely, or remember that? Remember the year that the Seahawks won the NFC West and, they were before, they got really cooking.
Sure.
Remember Beast Mode ran over the entire New Orleans Saint roster.
Yep.
So you're never going to have it equal, but there is some talk around the world of college football. How do you make these schedules more equitable where the strength of schedule isn't so out of whack like Indiana compared to Georgia, for an example?
Right.
So, but Wayne, good call. We appreciate it, man.
That's why we have debate.
Yep. Well, that's what college athletics is. We love debates. We love committees, right, Mike Leach? All right. So, I guess the important thing is, how was your feast?
It was good. Got some leftovers in the fridge. I asked this question to Jack earlier. So I live near a Dollar General, and I didn't get any gravy because it was all gone by the time dinner was over last night. Do you think the Dollar General that I live near will have gravy when I go by there today?
No. Here's the question. Even more important. Do you trust eating gravy from the Dollar General?
Well, like if it's prepackaged, like the little mixes and stuff like that, and Marie Callender's or whatever. Like that's fine. Like if it was Dollar General made gravy, I would not trust that. But if it's prepackaged or in a little packet or something, I would. I just don't want to have to go to like the grocery store today because God knows that's a madhouse.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, give it a try. Take a look, see what they got in there. Maybe they have a jar of Dollar General brand gravy.
Listen, if it's not brand name, I'm not buying it. You know how I am with ketchup.
I know how you are. We'll talk a lot of Thanksgiving as well here on the Halftime Show. Come back, here's some Shane Beamer. Also, look at these two teams, their resumes, as we get to tomorrow. Clemson, South Carolina, Clemson. We can't screw that up. Halftime Show in the game. Oh, it is Rivalry Week, sponsored by our buds at Columbia Craft. Terry Ford, Tyler Head halftime show, sponsored by our friends at the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. We roll up until 3 o'clock in the postgame show with Jay and Elijah here on the game. All right, Shane Beamer, South Carolina, it's a real thing. November Beamer is something. November Shane is real.
Tell your kids about it.
12-4 November record here at South Carolina. His teams have gotten better every year. Some years, again, you can say competition was better than other years. It doesn't matter. Shane Beamer's won, 2 years ago, beat 2 top 10 teams, one at home, one on the road. This year so far, undefeated through November.
Well, and we talked about this going into last week. Outside of Jacksonville State and Wofford, every other opponent's either been in the SEC or the ACC.
Mm-hmm. So there's been some legit competition through this run for Shane Beamer. Again, 12-4 in November are the Gamecocks in Shane's tenure. And here's a coach talking about that 12-4 mark.
I think it's, I go back to the way we practice. We work to get better throughout the season. We don't get to the season and stop doing good work and just do nothing but scout team work. I mean, our practices are competitive, and we do a lot of, ones versus ones. Josiah Thompson blocking Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard, and Lenora Sellers having to throw against Nikki Manwari and DQ Smith and all those guys. So I think it certainly starts with the way we practice, and then I would say the way we train as far as the weight room and taking care of their bodies, nutrition-wise, training room-wise. It's a lot of it, and we always tell our players at the beginning of the season we want to be a team that gets better as the year goes, and we knew after the Kentucky game, I told them, look, we're 2-0, but it would be a shame if we're the same team in Week 12 that we are right now, and you've seen us change, whether it be personnel or whether it be wins and losses as far as how we've developed as the season's gone on.
So, yeah, basically we play to get better as the season continues. You still do good versus good, still do tackling. There are teams that really pull off of that stuff as the year goes on. Again, look, does it work for some people? Sure, but for Shane, it feels like we want to continue to stay sharp on the things that are important when we go on the field. And I think the good on good is really interesting, Tyler.
It is, and you mentioned, some teams may scale back tackling and stuff like that, and people would ask the question, why would you do that? It has to do with health. And again, you've been playing football now for 14 weeks when you count the 2 bye weeks, so your body's a little bit worn down. You do have to certainly balance the load you're putting on guys this late in the year, because everybody's dealing with something. Not everybody's going to be in the injury report, but everybody's got an ache or a pain here that can be aggravated the more they're getting hit in practice or whatever it may be. But it's a balance, and good coaches are able to find that balance between doing enough tackling and stuff like that, but also not doing too much to where you have a dead team come Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, for example, you've got to read the room on your team.
Sure.
You got to feel the temperature and the vibe. If you think like, okay, we're tired, we're beat up, or we've got injuries and we can't afford to go out there and start hitting each other because, God forbid, we don't need any more injuries, then you might pull back on that a year. If there's a year where, your team feels like they look strong, they look energized, you're healthy, maybe do a little bit more tackling. But I go back to the good on good. Even if you're going to pull back on tackling, you can still put ones against ones.
Yep.
I think that just keeps people sharp. I've always liked good on good. So that's Shane talking about, the 12-4 November mark for his football team. All right, so we're going to start examining resumes, Tyler.
All right.
South Carolina, obviously we know the schedule every week. We'll get to that one. You focus on Clemson really quick. Now I'm using Billy Connolly's SP Plus efficiency ratings for teams.
Yeah.
It's just the easiest way to do this. Is it the end-all, be-all? No. Is it the Bible of everything that matters in the world? No. But it is a way to look at teams' efficiency on all 3 phases. Now, Clemson on the year, efficiency-wise, again, everything about South Carolina, Clemson is so close. Like South Carolina, efficiency-wise, is 14th. Clemson's 15th. Tigers, offensively are 12th. Defensively, they've gotten much better over the year. They're 20th now. They were like around 40 for a while. And special teams-wise, this could be something in this football game, Tyler. Special teams-wise, Clemson 109th in the country in efficiency.
They've allowed more blocked kicks than anybody in the entire country, and I think somebody might be getting $1,200 tomorrow if that goes South Carolina's way.
Could happen. Could happen. So that's Clemson's resume there. South Carolina, like I say, a tick above at 14th, 25th on offense, 14th on defense, 42nd on special teams. All right, so you look at Clemson's schedule. They started the year off with the best team, according to Billy Connolly's rankings. Georgia's 5th overall right now, 6th on offense, 9th on defense, 5th on special teams. A very balanced squad. One of the few that can say they're top 10. As a matter of fact, they might be the only one top 10 in all three categories. Possibly. For a while, Ole Miss was there, but Ole Miss has kind of fallen back a bit. I believe Georgia's the only one that's top 10 in all three categories as we speak. No, Ole Miss is still top 10 in all three categories, which is interesting. And so it's Georgia, Ole Miss are the only two that are hanging top 10 in all three. Appalachian State was next. Of course, Georgia in the second half ran over Clemson. Appalachian State, 96 overall in the country. NC State, 60th overall in the country. Stanford, 101st. Florida State, 85th. Wake Forest, 90th. Virginia, 81st. That's a lot of ACC. Ugh.
They seem to be scraping the bottom of the barrel in the conference this year.
And remember this. There are a total in the country of 134 teams on this level. So if you are under, I'll be kind, if you're under 70, you're below average.
Pretty much.
So we've seen App State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia, all below average.
If you're past 70.
Yeah, if you're over 70.
Yeah, if you're 1 through 70, you're basically in the top half of college football. If you're below that, you're in the bottom half.
Right. So you see a lot of below here. Now you get to a couple that are above. Louisville is 19th in efficiency.
Yep.
On the strength, really, of an offense that's top 15. Their defense is better than it has been in the top 40. We've also seen Louisville have maybe one of the worst losses in the country in getting beat by Stanford.
Yeah.
It was bad. We said 101 in efficiency. Virginia Tech, despite their record, is 31st in efficiency. Very balanced team. Offensively, 31st. Defensively, 41st. Special team. 41st offense, 40 defense, 41st special teams. Pitt has gone on a skid here lately. They've lost 4 straight, including 1 to Clemson. They've had some injuries, especially at quarterback. Pitt right now is 47th overall in the country. So Clemson has played 2 teams in the top 20 all year.
Lost both.
And lost both games. And, by the way, lost them easily.
Yeah, the Louisville score looks better because they scored late, but the Cardinals, they had people leaving early in the fourth quarter.
The Cardinals were leaving early.
Yeah.
I mean, Louisville said, our 1s and 2s are going to get on the bus. We're good. So they lost both those games easily to their 2 best opponents. The only other team they played that's in the top 40 is Virginia Tech, and then the other one in the top 50 is Pitt. Not a daunting schedule, and the 2 times they have played teams with any kind of resume or any kind of, anything to them, they got beat.
Anything with a pulse.
Yeah, they got beat and beat badly.
Again, if Eli Holstein plays for Pitt a couple weeks ago, you can make the argument they probably win that game too.
Yeah, because, again, Cade Klubnik, to his credit, broke off that, 54-yard run or 50-yard run to win the game.
Yep.
Late, because Pitt had taken over the momentum of that football game up in Columbia Craft right here on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach.
this is supposed to be a quarterback draw. They have a light box.
Clock is running with 15 seconds, and it's 3rd and 26. They have one timeout left.
This is like the light box. You could have gotten numbers, but just didn't.
You better hurry.
No.
Oh, this is disaster in the making here. You're going to have to do something when it comes down to this play. Incomplete, and the game is over.
There's Jim Nance and Tony Romo losing their mind. Tony Romo threw one of his Skechers out at the field. He was so annoyed.
When the announcers are bewildered at the decision that you're making, you know you've really screwed up. Because even sometimes they'll try and cover things up like, oh, hey, this is an interesting strategy that they're playing. Like, no, they're like, what are you doing?
Right.
The time is running out. You lost your mind?
It's just, and I heard the call. I've heard that call. I've heard the local call in Detroit and Chicago.
Oh.
And it's just, in Detroit, they're laughing at the end.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
And in Chicago, I mean, they probably have to hit the dump button 4 or 5 times for all the profanity that was coming out of there.
They probably just took their headsets off and left.
I mean, okay, let's start with this. The Chicago Bears had the ball 1st and 10 on the Detroit 25 with 46 seconds left. In an indoor dome stadium, that's a gimme field goal to tie the game.
Should be.
After that, chaos ensued. You had illegal use of the hands penalty on Jenkins, the offensive lineman. Then you had the sack of Caleb Williams. And all of a sudden, 1st and 10 on the Detroit 25 became 3rd and 26 of the Detroit 41. Craziness. That's number one. When you have a 3rd and 26 of the Detroit 41 and you were down to 36 seconds left, roughly. You had one timeout in your pocket. If it were me, and we'll get to Matt Eberflus, you know what? Let's hear Matt's explanation real quick, Tyler. Then we'll get to what we think. Here's Matt Eberflus post-game trying to explain the horrid game management by the Chicago Bears at the end of that contest.
You know, and then we're there at 2nd and 20, take the sack right there. And, so we're at 36 seconds right there. And our hope was, because it was 3rd going into 4th, that we would re-rack that play at 18 seconds, throw it inbounds, get it into the field goal range, and then call the timeout. And that's where it was, and that was our decision-making process on that. Again, we were outside the field goal range, so we needed to get a few more yards in there, as close as we can get, and then we're going to call timeout. And that's why we held that last timeout at the end of the game. So, like I said, disappointing for the players. They put a lot of work in a short week and put themselves in position to win that game.
Yeah, you were in position to at least tie the football game, and then you foobarred. All right, so if it's me, at the very least, when Caleb Williams gets sacked, you have a rookie quarterback, and watch Caleb Williams just watch that scenario play out.
He's panicking.
He's frazzled. He's panicky. Now, should you have a sack in that situation? No, not at all. No way. Inexcusable. You can't have it. Illegal use of the hands penalty, not very smart. Again, I get it. You're blocking. I understand, but still, you got to be smart. Once the sack happens, you call timeout. Because you got to settle down your rookie quarterback. And you know what else, too? Last time I checked, it's now 3rd and 26.
Yes.
And you still have 36 seconds. So, with a timeout, you reset yourself, your play caller, and your rookie quarterback. You still have plenty of time to throw the ball 10-ish yards down the field, 10 to 15 yards, complete something, run, and then get on the field and kick the field goal. You got to do it quick.
Or work the sideline.
Exactly.
Clock.
You can work and if they're going to take the sideline away from you, you can still hit something on the seam real quick.
Every team practices the fire drill, right?
Right. So you've got the special teams dude standing right there, And the minute that ball completes, let's say it's in the middle of the field. As soon as that ball completes in the middle of the field, let's say you got 26, 25 seconds. You haul your tail on the field, like you said. You fire drill it, you line up, you snap it. And indoors from 45 to 50 yards in the NFL, that's still a really good high percentage kick.
We should be talking about an overtime game.
Exactly. Now, is that easy? Of course not. But that I would take over that mess, that disaster that we saw yesterday on that final play with a rookie quarterback left out on his own, Tyler, to try to figure it out.
Look, if you brought Matt Eberflus in here, gave him a whiteboard, he could talk circles around us when it comes to football. Nobody's denying his football knowledge, but it's insane to me, and he's the only one that's done it, how coaches in the most simple of situations screw these things up.
Yes, and I don't know if there's too much information in their ears. There's not enough information in their ears. They don't want to hear anybody because they're smarter than everybody. They just look at their little guy from the Big Bang Theory with his charts and pie charts next to him. I don't know if Matt Eberflus just has no natural instinctive feel on how to manage a game. All I know is I think the Bears fell to 5-19 in one-score games under Matt Eberflus.
Yeah, and particularly the last 3 games have all come down to pretty much the last play.
Yeah, I know that it's chaos on a sideline. I get it. I know everybody's making these decisions at the speed of the moment and in the heat of the moment. I understand all of it. But you can't screw this up. I've always said this. You should have a game manager coach.
Oh, well, there's supposed to be quality control, right?
Yeah, I guess, but I would say you are a game manager coach. All you do is go through game management. I don't care if I need you twice a game. I don't care if I don't need you at all in one game.
Oh gosh, we have backup left guard assistant coaches now. So
we've got holder coaches. Have a game and call them that, the game manager coach. But a coach would only because that's demeaning to the coach.
Yeah, it's like, hey, coach, we should probably use that last time out here.
Say, hey, coach, you might want a time out here, reset everything with your rookie quarterback who right now is soiling himself on the field, and you can smell it through your TV. Might be a good idea. Again, if you've got a veteran quarterback, if you've got Josh Allen, or Aaron Rodgers when he had 2 good Achilles, maybe the scenario Matt Eberflus gave you in the postgame, you go like this. Okay, you got a veteran quarterback who's been through a ton of it. We don't need to call a timeout to settle him down. He can get to the line of scrimmage and get something. Well, first of all, he doesn't take the sack.
Yeah.
And then 2, if you are in a situation where this thing is happening the way it was unfolding, a veteran quarterback can calm himself down and get things done much simpler, easier, and smoother.
That snap's probably getting off with
much quicker.
20, 15 seconds left, where even if you do get sacked or whatever it may be, you still have timeout to use.
But here's the other part. A veteran quarterback will call the timeout.
Yes.
A veteran quarterback who's been around for a while is going to look over at Eberflus and go, screw your strategy, bub. We need a timeout right here because we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So the moral of this story, though, is the news that just came out of Chicago.
Matt Eberflus has been fired. They were kind enough to at least let him enjoy his Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes.
Because they could have left his butt back in Detroit.
By the way, how good was that Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh, I'm sure he had a great time.
Yeah.
Knowing the meeting was coming this morning.
Oh, yeah. He knew he was dead man walking, and he should have been. Look, we sit here and we'll say you should fire a coach, you should do this, you should do that. You're taking someone's job. Look, is he going to get a nice big lump sum of dough? Oh, absolutely. Is he going to be? Are you going to go to Sand Hills in a couple days and see him working? No. But still, you're saying someone should be fired from their job. But I think the proof is here, really, and we don't have time for this. This is something that probably should have happened at the end of last year, so you could have a new quarterback and a new head coach come in hand with a new offensive coordinator, new quarterback coaches, and you didn't, and now you're going to hit the reset button.
Never hire a coach with a silly last name.
We're going to get into that. Can you really be successful with the last name Eberflus? I mean, honestly. Who's better, Belichick or Eberflus? Halftime show, Firehouse Subtext, the hour, 803-404-6100 is next, right here. Rivalry week on the game. Time for our Firehouse Sub text the hour, 803-404-6100 here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Rivalry Week, Football Friday. We got it all going on today, man. What's happening there on the old text line?
Oh, yeah. People throwing in their predictions. Monty says, time to avenge. It's time for revenge for 63-17. Give me the Gamecocks in a blowout. 73-12.
Woo!
That would
wow.
be. You know what? If you want to make yourself undeniable to the playoff committee, beat Clemson by 61 points. That's a great argument.
That would be a hell of a statement, wouldn't it? By the way, on the road.
Yeah, when you're not favored, line's 2.5 as of right now. Yeah, that would be. You'd make a good case for yourself.
Man.
Oh, did you see we slaughtered the team that you thought was number 12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what we did to them? But they arrested us after the game for the vicious assault we put on them. Man, that would be something. So, I mean, Clemson, 2.5-point favorites. Haven't really talked about this. Basically, they give you 3 points to be the home team.
Typically.
Roughly.
Yeah.
So, basically, it's looked at as a toss-up. Maybe Carolina by 0.5 point. How can you score 0.5 point?
It's a good question. Gamecock Larry predicted Clemson would only score 1 point, and I'm still trying to figure out how exactly they would accomplish
like the CFL.
That.
In the CFL, you can get a point if you return like the field goal or something.
Yeah, you also get a point. I think if you punt out of the back of the end zone.
There's weird ways you can get a point in the CFL.
Yeah,
I guess we're going to throw CFL rules here.
I guess.
What was his prediction?
41-1. It's like I'm intrigued
Love
to
Larry.
see. Now there is, because Oregon played Kansas State in the Alamo Bowl like 10 years ago. And something weird happened on an extra point that got Oregon 1 point. I'm not sure what happened. I have to go back and look, but there is a funky way I think you can get 1 point and only 1 point.
I have to look that up. I'm in the middle of the how you get that 1 point in the CFL again. Because, back in the old days when ESPN was jonesing for stuff to have on, like content.
Sure.
They would play CFL games.
Okay. So,
here we go.
All right. So I'm figuring this out here. This is awarded Oregon a 1 point safety, but it was after a touchdown. So I guess there isn't a way you can only score 1 point.
My head hurts from that.
So they counted it like an extra point because because the ball came out in the field of play, and then the K-State defender ran back into the end zone and was tackled.
Oh, okay.
So
you get a point because it's like a safety, but it was on the extra point, so you get a point.
Exactly. You don't get the 2 points. You get 1 point. So you still technically made the extra point.
I guess.
Just in a roundabout way. So there's no way you can only make 1 point on its own.
All right, Canadian Football League. Missed field goal. If the kicking team misses a field goal and the ball doesn't make it out of the end zone, the kicking team scores a point. Interesting.
Huh.
The ball's in place on the 25-yard line. The one you said, punt or drop kick. If the kicking team punts or drop kicks the ball into the receiving team's end zone, the receiving team doesn't return it, the kicking team scores a point. You want to get rid of touchbacks?
Yeah.
There you go, Bob.
Well, I think they should just move the kickoff back anyway.
Yeah.
Because I get what you're trying to do, but you're still kicking from the 35.
Right.
And NFL kicker legs are better than they've ever been. What do you think's going to happen?
Right. Kick goes out of bounds. Ball goes out of bounds in the end zone, except on a kickoff, the kicking team scores a point. And on a kickoff, if the ball stays in bounds on a kickoff, isn't run out of the zone, or if the defense puts the ball out of bounds in the end zone, kicking team scores a point. That's interesting. Very interesting.
Canadian football's weird.
Mm-hmm. Canadian Football League. I like the fact that there's no illegal motion. You can just take off and start running. And
guys moving all over the place.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty wild. All right, so 41-1, Gamecock Larry. Very interesting. Very nice.
We'll see.
So Matt Eberflus is out in Chicago. If you just turned us on, your radio, laptop, phone, device. So have they said who the interim coach is yet?
I don't believe so.
Is it Thomas Brown, who just became the offensive coordinator? That's a nice couple weeks.
Yeah, that's an ascension for sure.
You go from an assistant on offense to the offensive coordinator / play caller because the OC gets canned and you become the head coach.
Thomas Brown, the interim head coach.
Look at that
There you
guy.
go.
Personally, for Thomas Brown, it's been a good month. I wonder if you get a raise.
I don't
Be the
know.
interim guy. Probably not at this point. Is that what you say if you're Thomas Brown? Well, how much more dough do I get? All right. Football, rivalry week. Football Friday on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, Rivalry Week, sponsored by Columbia Craft. We appreciate the folks at Columbia Craft for helping us out this week. Also, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And it's called, like always, Football Friday.
We got football being played right now.
I know. Colorado was up 7-0. What's happening there?
It's 21-0 now.
21-0?
Yeah, the Fighting Gundies gave up a long time
There was
ago.
no fighting the Fighting Gundies all year.
I actually didn't realize until this morning. They have no wins in conference play.
I know.
They are dead last in the Big 12.
And you know what's interesting about that? They came into the year with a bunch of returning starters on offense.
They were like one of the favorites to win the conference.
Everybody was really stoked about Gundy's chances maybe to win the Big 12 and go to the college football playoff. So no conference wins eliminates them from that?
Yeah, they're not in that like quasi four-way tie for the top of the Big 12 right now.
It's a 10-team tie in the Big 12. They're not part of it. They are. By the way, this is Gundy's worst year since his first season.
Oh, 1,000%.
First time he hasn't been to a bowl game at Oklahoma State since his first season.
By the way, here's a name you probably haven't thought about in 2 months. How about Ollie Gordon, who was the leading rusher of all college football a year ago? What's he done this year?
Oh, you want to list it? I think we're done.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. They have had, issues all over the place. Their defense has been terrible.
Bowman's a 12th year senior.
I know. The guy just turned 40. He's been awful this year. I shouldn't say awful. He's been inconsistent. Yeah. They have, as a football team, it's been at Oklahoma State.
That loss to Arkansas had to them now looks even worse in hindsight.
I know. If you're Arkansas, think about that one you should have had. Uncle Sam's going to a bowl game, but still. You had a lead, outgained him by like 200 yards. Yeah, that was a mess of a game. A massive mess of a game. There's no doubt. So we have that going on right now with Colorado, and Colorado obviously needs help to get to the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, it needs some Arizona. Who else? Kansas State. They need those guys to win.
Well, I'll tell you this. Arizona, that game is in Tucson.
Yes, it is.
Arizona is another one of those underachieving teams this year. Remember, Jed Fish, they won double-digit games last year. Jed Fish parlayed that into the UW gig. Coach Brennan came in from San Jose State, if my memory serves me. I thought that was an interesting hire because Brennan's never been a consistent winner at San Jose State, even though they say it's very difficult to win consistently ever at San Jose State.
Sure.
And there were people who know a lot more than I do who said, no, give this guy time. You finally put him in a place where he's got some resources and some help. He's going to be fine. That might be the case, but I know this. Again, I know that the quarterback stayed, the wide receiver stayed, a lot of other pieces stayed at Arizona. A lot of people thought Arizona was going to be good this year. Guess who's 4-7?
Arizona.
But there's a lot of talent there. Arizona State's walking into something here possibly, so keep an eye on this one. Because when you just look at records, you go, oh, my God, Arizona State's going to win this in a walk. Maybe not.
It's a beautiful thing about rivalry week. Sometimes one team's only mission is to ruin the other team's season. And that's what Arizona has a chance to do.
And they would love to. And there, again, I'll circle back to there is talent in Tucson. So we'll see what happens with that game. Now, but if Arizona State wins, it's all simple.
Yeah, if Arizona State wins, and I believe if Iowa State beats Kansas State, that's your Big 12 championship game, and they're playing for one spot in the college football playoff, which, as it stands right now, and Boise's got a lead on Oregon State, they're playing for likely the 12th spot to go on the road to take on the number 5 team.
Quick question, then we're going to get to South Carolina here real fast. Obviously, it's rivalry week. First of all, Boise State, Oregon State has just gone to the dumper. There's an injuries. They just haven't played well. They're on a long losing streak, I believe. I can't remember how many in a row. But they've scuffled. Yeah. Another team, their head coach moved on, brought in someone else. They were feeling pretty good for a bit. They started off the year decent, but they've cratered. Should Boise State, and I get Boise State, look, they're the closest to anybody to being Oregon this year along with Ohio State. I get it.
Yep.
And that game was in Eugene. Is it because their strength of schedule is... Should Boise State with a strength of schedule and their highlight wins Washington State, Should they really have a bye?
Probably not. And I think, and look, the way we talked about this playoff through the entire offseason leading up to it, we just always kind of assumed that the G5 representative would be like, yeah, they'll be 18th or 20th or whatever, and they're going to have to go on the road in the first round. Boise State's benefited from how chaotic the Big 12's been, because if you had, let's say BYU stayed undefeated, won the Big 12, guess what? They'd be in as a conference champion ahead of Boise State, and then Boise State's suddenly the 12th seed. But because everybody just keeps beating everybody in the Big 12, Boise, and that close loss to Oregon props them up so much, because, again, they've played mostly nobody. Say, hey, wait a minute, number one team in the country, tight game there at the end, Genty ran all over them. That's helping them out a lot here.
Yeah, and even the Mountain West Championship game could be a little wacky. Look, if UNLV gave Boise State a good game earlier this year, and right now it looks like it could be Colorado State or UNLV in the Mountain West Championship game. If it's UNLV, that might be interesting. So Boise State wouldn't be out of the woods. I'm just thinking, their strength of schedule is they're playing in a Group of 5 league. I guess because the Big 12 is imploded and their innards are spewed all over the country.
Sure.
That probably benefited Boise State, and this is probably a one-off if this type of system continues.
Yeah.
But I sit there and I go, I hate to fall in this trap, but I just think it's because, again, it's a think system. And I know it's a Group of 5 and they get a place at the table. And I love that, by the way. I never want that to go away. I think that's totally fair. I might be in the minority. But then there's that idea, should they really have a bye? Especially, Boise State's not like undefeated or anything.
Yeah.
If Boise State was undefeated, let's say, and not Oregon, but let's say they clipped a high-level Power 4 team in some way, shape, or form, then, okay, that's a little different. But they didn't. They played Oregon tough. They lost that game. 3-point game. Could have gone either way, to be fair. But that's their signature moment of the season is a loss.
It is, yes.
So, I don't know. I was just thinking out loud as we were yapping here.
Yeah, and again, that's why this is such an imperfect system.
I know.
If we had uniformity in scheduling, we wouldn't be debating this. We'd say, no, here's your pretty clear way of what these teams' records are, because that's how it is in the NFL. But we know college sports, man. There's no perfect way to do it.
That's so boring. This is more fun. We all just say what we think. So much more fun for our purposes. All right, South Carolina, Clemson. Clemson, 2.5-point favorite right now at home. Gamecocks, if you look at the moment here for South Carolina, it's a rivalry game. You're playing. Look, if you win this game, there's a good chance you're going to leap 3 teams and get to number 12 in the conversation.
Yep.
It's a really good chance. I don't care if you win it by half a point or you get a point on some Canadian Football League weird, wacky rule. If you go to the upstate and beat Clemson, the team that's ahead of you in the college football playoff, it doesn't matter what Ole Miss or Alabama does, playing inferior, unranked opponents with losing records, you should leap those 2 and obviously leap Clemson.
You would think.
To get yourself in the... Again, nothing's guaranteed because...
That makes sense to me, but I don't know if that's what's going to happen.
Guess what? I remember we were talking to the caller last hour, so don't use logic.
Yeah.
I got to stop this logic myself. But if you win this game, you are in the conversation.
This is the way I've been phrasing it. You're going to have to make the committee tell you no if you win this game, because this is your last chance to prove something. And then again, whatever happens around the country, conference championship game, all those things will play out, but you are going to be one of the names on the table when they're deciding that last playoff spot, and they're going to have to tell you no if they leave you out.
So not only are you taking on your hated, bitter rival, you are also playing for a legit spot in the college football playoff. So here's Shane Beamer talking about staying composed in a high emotional rivalry game that also carries some other weight as well.
Great question, Dan. You're exactly right. We talk about it a lot. We talked about it this morning in our team meeting. So Tuesday mornings is kind of the start of the week for us as far as preparation on the next opponent. And we talked about that this morning. One of the first things was, the poise and the discipline and the composure that we need to play with on Saturday, that it will be an emotional game and play really well between the whistles, not getting pre-snap penalties and then getting penalties after the play as well for late hits or unsportsmanlike conducts or whatever it might be. So it's easier said than done in a game like this because of the emotion. But the team that dislikes the other team the most is not necessarily going to win the game. They don't like us. We don't like them. I get it. That's a rivalry game. But the thing for us is going to be the team that plays really, really well, and that goes back to being composed and disciplined. That's where it all starts.
Yeah, and it's part of this thing. You don't want dumb, stupid penalties. You just don't. I've always said this because people always use this as an excuse. Like when Vontaze Burfict was getting 15-yard personal foul penalties every week in the NFL for the Cincinnati Bengals, hurting and crippling his team.
Yep.
Just plays with an edge. And, he's so intense and he's so ferocious. No, there's a lot of intense, ferocious guys who play with an edge who don't commit personal foul penalties. That's called going over the line and being stupid.
Yep.
There's a difference. You can be intense. You can play with an edge. You can be mean and nasty and play like a rabid dog or whatever you want to call it and not commit stupid penalties. You got to stay away from it. And obviously you have to value the football. Clemson's third in the country in turnover margin. They don't turn it over. And Klubnik's got 4 picks all year. I mean, they have been much better in protecting the rock this year than they were last year. You go play smart. Just play the way you've been playing. How simple is that, Tyler?
Pretty simple.
Play
Now,
the way you've been playing.
I was a little concerned with a slight uptick in penalties in the first half last week against Wofford, so don't fall into that because we talked about that every single week at the beginning of the year. You had, 10, 13 penalties?
Up in 2:30, Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier will hop in with us as well. So that's coming up here on the show. We might grab that Larry Williams. That was good stuff with you guys, you and Wes and Chris from Gamecock Central. We might fire that up for you as well as we get you ready for South Carolina Clemson. Again, 7 a.m. Gamecocks game day. 2 guys up way too early, Terry Ford and Tyler Head.
I will not stop at the place I got the coffee last time. I'll bring
don't
it
do
from
that.
home.
Yeah, don't do that. Bring it with you, or you also have a couple other choices on the ride you could hit.
I do. Yes, I do.
Giving you a little heads up. Obviously, our buddy Captain Dave will be here to punch the buttons for us. Then Chris Miller and the crew from Learfield will take over at 9. Noon kick from the upstate South Carolina Clemson right here on the game in Columbia and also 100.3 the game in Myrtle Beach. And Lawyer Lisa, the final shot for the $1,200. And if there is not a special teams touchdown scored, it'll get given away next week. Trust me. Lisa's not getting her money back. We're keeping it. That's coming up as well. Go to 1075thegame.com to register. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, football in the 1 o'clock hour. Look at the SEC Saturday next here on the game.
Yeah, Jared Brown didn't play against Wofford. He'll be fine for Saturday. Some of the guys that left the game defensively or got banged up, they're fine. Vandravius Jacobs, he won't play Saturday. That hamstring injury won't allow him to be able to go on Saturday. And then the other position's a tight end position, and we'll see where we are this weekend.
All right, there's the injury report sponsored by Samuel L. Reynolds Law. And seems like no Dre Jacobs at wide receiver. But he's
kind of a funky way that he got tackled last week.
Yeah, and he's been...
He factored in more at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, as the year's gone on, he's played less, to be fair.
And he's a guy, again, was a freshman last year at Florida State. You're looking at him as a longer-term guy that, can be a key leader in this group come next year.
So you're playing the long game with Jacobs.
Sure.
If he sticks around, because you never know anymore. But
you don't. But if he does, then
he's got eligibility.
You feel like, and again, we saw flashes of him earlier on the season. You think you got something with him if he does decide to stick around.
I remember he popped during camp and stuff like that and was starting a bit early in the year.
Yep.
So, but Jared Brown will be back, and obviously Brown had the big play a couple weeks ago against Missouri. And wide receiver room has come on nicely in the last few weeks.
Not the exact way we thought it was going to.
No.
Again, Campbell's kind of stolen the show a lot the past couple weeks, and he had all of 4 catches through the first half of the season, but for whatever reason, that connection's good. Sell's just finding him. He's getting open, and got good yards after the catch, and that could be a big key on Saturday as well.
No chaos right now. Boise State leading. Oregon State's on the board. It was 14-0. Broncos are playing on the blue in Boise. Austin Janty already over 100 yards rushing. Oregon State, though, went down the field and just pulled within a score. It's 14-6 right now. Oregon State just got on the board against Boise State. Obviously, Boise State cannot lose another game the entire year or they're out of the college football playoff. So Broncos up 8 pending the extra point at home right now. $1:48 to go before halftime. A little bit over 7 minutes to go in the second quarter in Boulder. Colorado up 21-0 on Oklahoma State. Shedeur Sanders 14 of 15, only 89 yards and 2 scores, though, as Colorado's smacking the Gundies.
That's the last game Shedeur plays. I know Dion downplayed that.
Yeah, he said they'll play in the bowl game and stuff like that.
Will they?
No. You
have 2 first-round talents.
Top 10 picks.
Yeah, that are, no. You're a Colorado fan. Enjoy it today. This is going to be the last one.
Travis Hunter, 4 catches, 22 yards, and a touchdown. To me, if you're going to say best player in college football, how you can't give the award to Travis Hunter, if not, tell the truth what the award is.
I guess that begs a good question. How often, if Travis Hunter won the Heisman Trophy, how often does someone win the Heisman Trophy and not play the game after that? Is that because did Jaden Daniels play LSU's bowl game last year?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe not.
I think Nussmeier played.
Because again, it's a recent phenomenon of guys opting out. But
right.
I mean, a lot of years, you win it, you're in the playoff or something like that. So it's rare that Travis Hunter could win it, and then we never see him play college football again.
Right. I think it was Ty Detmer won it and played the next week and got sacked like 100 times.
Yeah.
Or something goofy, and BYU got crushed or something like that. But, yeah, I mean, look, let's be real here. If you're Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders and Colorado's going up to some mid-level bowl game, even like a level 2 bowl game or whatever.
Don't disrespect the Valero Alamo Bowl.
You're right, because Valero, it's next level. And Alamo, who hasn't run a car from Alamo?
Hey, every time I watch the Alamo Bowl, I'm like, what do they do with this place the rest of the year? Because the Alamo Dome doesn't really have main tenants right now, I don't think.
No.
And every 3 years we get rumored to have an NFL team coming. That's not going to happen.
And remember they had the Final Four there, I think, a couple times.
The Final Four, they had the bowl game. And
they had the bowl game.
Every time a new spring league pops up, San Antonio gets a team, and they play in front of 12 people there. But for the most part, I'm just like, how does the Alamo have enough events to function as a venue?
They probably run a little rodeo.
Probably.
It's Texas.
I guess concerts and stuff like that.
How about roller derby?
Is that big
roller
in Texas?
derby? I don't know. I'm just making how about some, I don't know. Maybe like, you have like the horses, like the steeplechase with horses.
Yeah. I
They
guess
do
you
that
can
with
inside.
cattle.
Sure.
Maybe have a little cattle steeplechase. We should come up with ideas on what they can do to fill dates at the Alamo Dome.
Got Monster Jam coming. Looking at their events now.
And again, you missed an opportunity to have your wedding.
Okay, looks like I guess they play the high school state championships there as well.
That makes sense.
Disney on Ice, and then
Look,
the day after my birthday, Shakira. I have top on that.
that would be a nice birthday gift. Go see Shakira.
Anybody wants to get me something. Shakira.
I mean, for the guy who's got everything.
Exactly.
Backstage passes. Maybe dinner with Shakira.
Probably costs a little bit more.
Oh, man. So, yeah, Travis Hunter, Shador Sanders aren't playing. Come on. Please. All right, SEC, obviously this afternoon we've got the Egg Bowl. Ole Miss hosting Mississippi State. Ole Miss 24.5-point favorites. It could be more. Georgia Tech. Georgia 17.5-point favorites. Tell you what, don't screw around with Georgia Tech.
No, this is one of those games that has the identity of maybe being closer than it should be.
Don't mess around. Don't play with your food.
Brent Key's got that program pointed in the right direction.
It does. 7-win squad, a lot closer game last year.
Yep.
Don't mess with this one, Georgia. Don't have one of these slow starts.
Nope.
That's not what you want. And I'll go back really quick to this Ole Miss Mississippi State contest. I think you said this earlier today, and I agree 1,000,000,000%. This is an underachieving year at Ole Miss. If Lane Kiffin, this is why everybody yells and screams about Lane Kiffin going to Florida. Of course, now that's a moot point for today, but whenever that has come up, let's take the name Ole Miss off of everything that's gone on from the offseason to now. Let's put the name Florida on it. You went out and spent an ungodly amount of money through NIL. You brought in all these players who were all in for Last Dance. We're going to go in here, go to the college football playoff, yada, yada, yada. All this talent is one of the most talented rosters in America. And you're sitting at 9-3, and you're going to miss the college football playoff most likely.
It's a failure.
That's a failure.
That is a failure of a season.
And by the way, Lane Kiffin is doing this. Hey, Edgar, come here. Yeah, what do you need? What do you need, Coach? I need you to go start my car. That's what happens at Gainesville if you're 9-3 with this team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So everybody screams and yells about that. Lane's done pretty well for himself staying out of the pressure cooker programs. Because there's no pressure on Lane Kiffin in Oxford right now. There's no screaming and yelling of underachievement right now in Oxford.
It'll be interesting to see what the offseason conversation. He's not going to lose his job or anything like that, but what the mood shift is this offseason. Because again, they went all in. They brought in assassins to go all the way and win the national championship. And a couple weeks ago, playing against Georgia, they looked like they were capable of doing that. And now they're probably going to the Citrus Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, look what they did. To their credit, they got up off the deck. They had that hard loss to Kentucky. They got themselves up off the deck. They lost 2 games. They beat Georgia, and you're like this. Okay. They righted the ship. And then they go out. And look, Florida's been better than we all thought they would be. Thumbs up to Billy Napier and the crew. But there is no way if you're Ole Miss you lose that game.
You shouldn't.
No bleeping way. You just don't.
Especially throwing as bad of interceptions as Dart was throwing.
As good as Dart's played all year, and you picked that time to let a stinker go. Yeah.
Even when they gave you a second chance with that penalty or the overturn.
Florida tried. Everybody tried. And Ole Miss just would say, no, we're good. We're going to lose. All right, it's football on the 1 o'clock hour. Mike Uva, Gamecock Central, going to talk some more rivalry week with Carolina and Clemson next here on the halftime show. Terry Ford and Tyler Head till 3 on the game. right, it's Football Friday, Rivalry Week. We're doing all sorts of stuff here on the halftime show on the game. Time to talk some Carolina Clemson with our buddy Mike Uva, Gamecock Central TV star. I think he's making an action movie. I mean, he's a busy man, so we appreciate you taking your time there.
I don't know, Terry, if I owe you some money to say that. I mean, if they're putting me in movies, but businesses are going to be losing money.
Well, I think Wahlberg needs to stand in, right?
Yeah, a little stunt double action for.
I don't know. After being in the South for so many years, everyone up here says I have a little Southern twang in my accent. So it goes to show how many people haven't been south of the Mason-Dixon line.
I would say nobody here is saying that about you.
No shot.
All right, man. You know, we're discussing it here, Mike, that it feels like South Carolina is the better team. They're playing better. They're healthier. They got all these things going for them. And, of course, Gamecock fans go, shut up. Shut your face. How you feeling about the Gamecocks going into this game in the upstate?
I mean, I like it. I mean, certainly when you have this rivalry, records don't matter. We've seen that over the history of this rivalry. I know in recent years outside of 2022 and maybe last year, it hasn't felt that way, at least from a South Carolina perspective. But I think this is going to be a game, and certainly being able to play at noon. I put this out a couple weeks ago. I think that helps South Carolina because you're able just to wake up, go right from the hotel and play. You're not going to have to be thinking about this game and playing in an environment where it's maybe a little bit more hostile playing at night. So I think, I think anything could happen in this game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. And as I mentioned yesterday in my keys of the game, something that really just is crazy when it stands out to me, Clemson has won all their games. They're 9-0 when they've forced at least one turnover. When they don't, they're 0-2. So if there was another reason as to why South Carolina needs to hold on to the football tomorrow, add that one in there for sure.
And, Mike, we've been obviously watching this team up close, and this past month has been another level when it comes to this offense. And something about being coach teams where one side of the football takes a huge step forward. In that final month of the regular season this year, it being offense, and Sellers has been kind of the straw that stirs the drink on that. And we're setting up, with tomorrow, if Carolina's going to win this game, Sellers might need to go out there and have a career type of day against this Tigers defense.
No question about it. And as we do throughout the season on Gamecock Central, we do a segment called Mixing the Water Monday. We talk to a former Gamecock player, and over the last couple of weeks, whether it be Steve Tannehill, whether it be Torrey Gray, whether it be Steven Garcia, we've talked a lot about this offense, and certainly talking about the play of Lenore Sellers. He looks more comfortable out there, and because of the comfortability that he has with understanding, all right, hey, you know what? I understand what I have to do back here. The offensive line, they've been playing better. Have they been perfect? Certainly not. There's been a lot of those plays where Sellers make something out of nothing that maybe if you don't have a quarterback that's as mobile, you're going to probably have some of those sacks. But just the timing in his head, everything just looks more in sync in comparison to the beginning of the year. So I think being able to have a guy like that back there and just seeing how he responds, right? We go back to last week. There was an interception on the first series of the game, and then he had multiple times throughout the game where he completed 10 passes or more in a row. So I think that speaks to the maturity as well and just how he's been able to answer after some early adversity.
Mike, you've been hanging out with us, Gamecock Central halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. All right, so as we speak of this offense and how Sellers has improved, it feels like by leaps and bounds here recently. If I said to you, just give me the one thing that's impressed you the most in the improvement of Lenore Sellers, what would it be?
Honestly, and this might not be something that stands out to people as much, just his touch on the short passes. Whether it be a swing pass, whether it be a screen pass, whether it be just some of those short timing routes, even the slants. And I think when you're able to do that, especially with the speed that South Carolina has, it really opens up your entire offense. Sure, Nick Harbor, he's running more fade routes. They're giving him more opportunities to at least stretch the defense by taking some shots. But with those short passes, it really just stretches the defense out. And it allows you to obviously run the football a little bit more, whether it be with a guy like Rocket Sanders or a guy like Lenore Sellers on some of those design draws. So I think just one of those things that you talk to quarterbacks, I don't care what level it is, that touch pass, it's one of the toughest passes in all of football. You think, oh, I could do that. I could come out of the stands and just do a 5-yard swing pass. it's not as simple as that. And I feel like he's really grown in that area more than anything. And that's one of the main reasons why, in my opinion, the offense has really been able to flourish over the last couple of weeks.
Mike, obviously a big story about this team is revolved around what's happening on the defensive side of the football. And I've been imploring people, all week long that, especially if Carolina doesn't make it in the college football playoff, this could be the last time that we see Cal Kennard play in a Gamecock uniform. And tomorrow he and Dylan Stewart are both chasing Clowney's both freshman and single-season sack records. What an incredible year we've seen on that side of the football. And I don't know if we've got a nickname nailed down for it yet, but this is a defense we're going to be talking about for a long time to come.
It's been fun. And I think back to preseason and even some of the comments I had, I shared from talking with some players during preseason about what the scrimmages are looking like. And they said our defense is really special. And I think when we hear comments like that, we think, all right, this defense can be pretty good. But just the way that they were able to gel, and it goes back to what Clayton White was able to do, even going back to last season with guys being able to buy in. And, they weren't able to finish last season with a win, but we all know the reason why South Carolina had a shot in that Clemson game last year was because of the performance by the defense and what they were able to do down the stretch last season. I think they were able to carry that momentum into this year, despite the fact that you did have some new faces. You did have some players that decided to hit the transfer portal from last year's defense. And USC was able to really rally around what they have up front in that front six because of what they do with the 4-2-5 and obviously switching things up with the three-man front. And because of the talent that they've had up front, it makes the talent that they have on the back end, which they do, that much more impressive. It makes their jobs that much easier. I talk to Marcellus Dial about it all the time when I'm covering the Patriots, just how much easier that makes their jobs. He's like, when you have a pass rush, he's like, all you have to just do is just do your job just enough. Do your job just enough. There's going to be some plays, and we've seen it, that miscommunications or someone throws a great ball. That's football. Things are going to happen in the back end. But when the defensive line is putting the type of pressure up front, especially with what Kyle Kennard's been doing, Dylan Stewart, it makes their job in the back end that much easier.
Mike Uva, Gamecock Central, hanging out with us on the halftime show on the game. The wide receiver room, all of a sudden, wow, the last couple of weeks, tons of plays, touchdowns, all sorts of stuff. And in the last minute, give me your thoughts on the rebirth of the wide receiver this year.
I think you got to give a lot of credit to Mike Furry and what he's been able to do. I mean, it's pretty easy to have a guy that you'll listen to that played in the NFL that had a 1,000-yard receiving in the year before that. He played defense pretty well, too. He had 4 interceptions. So he understands both sides of the football at the highest level. He's been obviously doing a good job from a recruiting standpoint, but just the development. There's not just one there's not just one wide receiver. There's multiple wide receivers that have been stepping up and getting better as the year's gone on. And you see what's going on with Nick Harbor, too. My goodness. I mean, let's finish this season first, but just what he's been doing over the last couple of weeks, it excites you, and it should excite you what could be come 2025. But, yeah, Mike Furry and the job that wide receiver room has done this season, it's been fun to watch as well.
Gamecock Central TV, I found it. He's going to play the former Green Beret, now turned villain off the grid in Jason Bourne, the final chapter.
Oh, that's
Mike
perfect.
Uva.
That's perfect for him.
Mike Uva.
Hey, whatever you need me to do.
Hey, my man, we appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot, bud.
All right, take care, guys.
All right, we'll see you, Mike Uva, Gamecock Central. By the way, in case you missed it, Matt Eberflus is now the former head coach of the Chicago Bears, and in the press conference, it was stated, we realize we cannot successfully win games with a man named Eberflus as our head coach.
Telling you, man, if you have to snicker when you say his name, when you're looking at his resume, that might be a deterrent for hiring him.
Shouldn't this be a conversation in the hiring process?
You would think.
Like, how many successful guys have been named Eberflus in the NFL as a head coach?
What you don't want when you hire somebody in a position this high is when you tell someone, hey, we hired Matt Eberflus, they laugh and go, you hired who?
It's like, seriously, who'd you hire?
Not good.
All right, Firehouse Up, text the hour, 803-404-6100. Rivalry Week, sponsored by Columbia Craft. It's a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, here on the game. Firehouse Sub text the hour. We got that coming up 803-446-100. Also, we are popping up a Twitter X poll we got to get to. So let's start off with the Firehouse Sub text the hour there, Tyler Head.
Yeah, let's see here. Nameless Texter says, don't count your chickens before they hatched. If Clemson were to beat South Carolina, they knock 3 SEC teams out of the playoffs, which would be a body blow to the conference.
I wouldn't go body blow to the conference because it's not the conference will survive. But yeah, for the college football playoff purposes of this year, it's got to be more than just a Clemson loss, right? Because if there's chaos all around it, you could still see Alabama get in if they handle business, which they should against Auburn. But you've got to have some serious problems happen, right?
Nobody in that collection of Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina is in a position to truly control their own destiny. So I don't count any of them in right now. So right now, Texas is in, Georgia's in, Tennessee's in, and if A&M won the conference, they would be in too. So you have the potential for a fourth. And then, if top 10 teams start dropping again this weekend, then sure. Alabama's next, then Ole Miss. And again, if Carolina can make a statement this weekend against Clemson, maybe have a shot at that as well. But it's not as many as we thought they were going to get in. It doesn't seem that.
No.
But, Sankey's not thrilled, clearly.
No. And look, Clemson needs help. Even if Clemson beats South Carolina, they need help.
Yeah, that's the debate. It's like, okay, if you win, because Boise's a non-factor because they're already locked in. It's like, okay, if a Clemson at 12 beats a 15 South Carolina, does that jump Indiana? Does Indiana get bumped out because of that?
But here's the thing. If Indiana does what they do to bad teams and they boat race Purdue, they're only a one-loss Indiana team, and their only one loss is Ohio State, even though their strength of schedule is worse than Clemson's.
Yeah.
And Clemson's a 2-loss team out of the ACC.
I mean,
that might be the one that's vulnerable is Indiana, win or lose.
I mean, you're looking at if you really want a 3-loss team in the SEC, you're cheering for Georgia Tech, you're cheering for Cal, you're cheering for Syracuse, you're cheering for Purdue.
Yeah, I was going to say Purdue.
You're cheering for teams that are at the back end of the top 10 to lose, and Georgia still has a way to get in by the conference championship game, but those other teams wouldn't.
Right.
I mean, SMU would still have the conference championship game, but Indiana, if Miami loses, they're out of the ACC championship game. They wouldn't have another shot at it. Southern Cal to beat Notre Dame or something like that.
Right, and is a 3-loss SEC team, and we'll focus on South Carolina. Let's say you beat Clemson. Would you jump a Miami team who's now has 2 losses and has really their big signature win is what, Florida?
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
But again, let's circle back to it. How much of this really matters? We don't even know. If Indiana wins, they're a 1-loss team. Are they going to jump a 1-loss team with a 2-loss team from the ACC? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just like being a 3-loss South Carolina, we can sit here and say all day, well, should a 3-loss South Carolina from a much stronger league jump a Miami if they have 2 losses in the ACC? We might look at all these metrics and think South Carolina should, but this committee, besides Tennessee and Georgia, is following 1-loss record chalk for the most part.
They are, and the thing about South Carolina is we're going to know on Tuesday if they're going to be in or not. Yes, you still got conference championship weekend, but that's a lot smaller sample size to pull from in terms of what chaos could unfold. And I'm of the belief that a lot of these teams, no matter what happens, are in win or lose in the Power 4 conference championship game. So, again, if Carolina's still outside the top 11 come Tuesday, they're not going to get in.
Right, and it feels like if Miami and SMU are going to truly play for the ACC championship, and let's say they don't lose, we'll say they continue on, the loser's in.
I would think so.
I would think
I'm of the belief you shouldn't punish a team for earning the right to play a 13th game.
If the rest of your resume is up to snuff, but like, for example, the Big 12, I don't care who you are, losing the Big 12 championship game, you're done.
Well, they're so far out anyway.
Right, they're done.
It doesn't matter, but like, if Texas and Georgia win this weekend, they play each other, the loser still gets in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Big Ten, the loser's getting in.
Ohio State and Oregon are going to play 1 and 2 again, or they weren't 1 and 2 when they played earlier in the season, but still, loser gets in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I almost feel like the ACC, if Miami and SMU handle their business this week, They both get in.
The only debate would be if Miami and SMU win, play each other next weekend, and Miami just throttles them 70-3. Then it's like, is SMU that good? I don't think that's going to happen. But then we might have some kind of debate of like, okay, should they fall out?
But that would be it. You're right. It would take a curb stomping in the ACC championship game for someone to question it. But I feel like if we don't have chaos this weekend, it feels like those three leagues, if you get to the championship game, you're going to the college football playoff in those three leagues.
Pretty much.
That's the way it feels.
Pretty much.
All right.
I think.
Yeah, you know what? Because that's what it's the think system. What's trending at 2 is sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions Rivalry Week and a Football Friday here on the halftime show in the game. All right, halftime show. What's trending at 2? Rivalry week, football Friday. We got all sorts of stuff going on here on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest, $1,200. We've reached the final game. If for some reason South Carolina doesn't score a special teams touchdown, which they haven't all year,
Yep.
next week we will be drawing the money. Trust me.
Just saying, Clemson allows more block kicks than anyone.
109th in the country in special teams efficiency, according to Billy Connolly at ESPN.
I called my shot earlier. I got a feeling.
We'll see. Just go to 1075thegame.com and register if you already haven't for the Lawyer Lisa Special Teams Contest. All right, so earlier in the show we went through, speaking of Billy Connolly, his efficiency rankings on ESPN.com and the SP Plus, looking at Clemson's, the teams that Clemson has played, the quality of opponent.
Yep.
Obviously, South Carolina's got a better strength of schedule. We know that. But if you look at South Carolina and who they've played, LSU's 22nd in efficiency ranking. Ole Miss is still 2.
Mm-hmm.
They're a very efficient team, even though they have in the worst possible moments.
Again, probably the most talented roster in all of college football.
Alabama's 6th in efficiency ranking. Texas A&M is 12th. Missouri is 21st. Even you go down another level. Oklahoma 26, Kentucky 46, Vandy 51. So pretty much the entire schedule is in the top 50 except for Old Dominion and Akron.
Yep.
And Wofford, obviously, who doesn't count in this thing. So it's just a different level of competition that South Carolina's played. Now you go to South Carolina's defense is 14th in the country in efficiency by Billy Connolly on ESPN. The only defense close to that Clemson has played was Georgia's, which sits at 9, a little bit better than South Carolina. The flip side, Clemson, they are 1 behind South Carolina, 15th in total efficiency. South Carolina's 14th. Clemson sits at 20th defensively. Ole Miss is better, Alabama better, Oklahoma better, Texas A&M better, according to efficiency.
Right.
You look at Clemson's offense, which this year much better than it was last year, sitting at 12. Now, South Carolina has gone up against Ole Miss's offense, which is better by efficiency. Alabama's offense, which is better by efficiency as well. So, and again, Clemson's offense the last 3 weeks has struggled with consistency because of some injuries.
Well, and particularly injuries on the offensive line,
Yes.
which if any fan base knows how detrimental that can be, South Carolina, and it's rearing its ugly head again.
So just to look at the efficiency numbers in this game, what does it mean? Well, it just means with efficiency, we've seen South Carolina play a tougher level of competition.
But I'll say this, it means more talking about the 12th game of the regular season than it did talking about game number 5. You know what I mean? We have a full 11 games worth of sample size that, and again, these numbers aren't the end-all be-all, but they give you a pretty good snapshot of what these teams are now.
They give you a body of work of the deeper dive of all these teams that each squad has played.
Yeah, if we were doing this for week 2 against Kentucky, all right, and take that with a grain of salt. But when you have 11 games, and again, Carolina's played tough teams, Clemson's played some, not as many as Carolina, but you've seen them against good and bad competition.
Yeah. And that's kind of why we went over this, just to show you that, again, the ACC is not the SEC, and that's a big part of this. Playing Georgia, South Carolina's non-conference didn't have a Georgia in it.
Right.
So Clemson did, to their credit, they took on Georgia, and it didn't go well in the second half. But the SEC is just a better league than the ACC all the way around.
And here's the thing. If we played that game again today, is it a 34-3 blowout? Probably not. I think Georgia probably still wins, but I think Clemson could have put up a better fight because, again, teams do get better as the season goes along.
And remember, that Clemson offense was putrid against Georgia and then started to play much better through the season.
Yeah.
Again, the other team that if you look at these SP Plus rankings, when it comes to efficiency, the second best team Clemson played was Louisville, who smacked them all over the place at home.
Right.
So, again, just giving you an idea of the efficiency numbers of these two teams. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Real quick, Matt Eberflus out in Chicago as the head coach. That came out today. Obviously, 6 straight losses. The last 3 have been excruciatingly close. This season went sideways with the Hail Mary.
That was the start of the 6-game losing streak.
And look, there's something that smells bad in the locker room in Chicago. I don't know if they just realized Matt Eberflus wasn't a very good head coach. I don't know if there's a lack of accountability in the leadership in that locker room. I don't know. something's wrong. Like after the game yesterday, you're hearing some players question about why you didn't use a timeout.
Yep.
Now, again, that's for behind closed doors. That's not for the media.
Yep.
All you got to say is this, ready? It's on all of us, coaches and players. We've all got to do better. We should have done our best not to get stuck in such a bad hole to where we had to be in that position late in the game. Next question. This is not tough. There's something, again, I don't know if it's just Matt Eberflus that they don't have any confidence in as a head coach, or if that's a locker room full of finger pointers. I don't know.
I saw this pointed out earlier, and I'm going back to confirm this. I believe he's the first ever Bears head coach to be fired during the season.
I believe you're right. Because when he was starting to teeter, the Bears have never fired it. Remember, George Halas was the coach for a long time. Who was the owner?
George Halas.
And he fired himself during the season. And the McCaskey family has not fired a coach in season.
Until now.
So, first one. Matt Eberflus. And the guy who's had a meteoric rise in the football coaching world, Thomas Brown, the interim head coach. Coached here at South Carolina as an assistant.
That is a quick ascension. He was 2 years ago the tight ends coach with the Rams. Now he's the head coach of the Bears.
Remember, he got bumped up to OC a few weeks ago with the firing of Shane Waldron.
Yep.
Now he's been bumped up to interim head coach.
And, that's how the dominoes typically fall. All right, I'm going to scapegoat with the coordinators. Now, a lot of times, firing the coordinators can buy you another year.
Oh, yeah.
Say, all right, this season didn't go well. I'm going to fire my coordinators, get some new guys in here. Next year will be better. And when next year's not better, then they fire the head coach. They just expedited that whole process. Again, they probably should have done all this a year ago anyway.
Right.
And said, all right, coordinator gone, and now the head coach is gone. Which, okay, if he doesn't do what he did yesterday, if they just lose the game straight up, is he still the coach today?
He's still the coach. If they would, here's the ironic part of the whole thing. If the Bears don't make a big comeback in the second half to have that bleep show at the end of the game when it came to time and game management by the head coach, Eberflus is still the guy. But that was so unbelievably awful and embarrassing that coupled with a 6-game losing streak, you pull the trigger. Now you get a head start with your coaching search, which you probably will screw up because you're the Bears.
And look, you get in on it before anybody else. He's the first coach to fall so far this season. So again, you're packing it up for the rest of the year, and it's so. And you brought this up earlier. It sucks for Caleb Williams, right? And I get it. He rubs people the wrong way. But no matter how you feel about him, this is not an advantageous position for the development of his career.
No.
Because what you should have done was brought in a new head coach, draft a new quarterback, and let it all be new together. Now it's like, hey, Caleb, all that stuff they developed you with this year, forget all that. We got new people coming in.
Yeah, I mean, you probably should have fired Eberflus at the end of last year, hired like Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, the two flavors of the month as offensive coordinators in Detroit and in Houston. And you hope you're hiring a guy that, because really the most important thing with the head coach is you set culture and you're a leader.
Yes.
Not what you can do on the whiteboard. We've seen a lot of failed offensive and defensive coordinators become head coaches, and they're just really good coordinators.
Right.
But I think it's so important to develop Caleb Williams that you either, A, go get an offensive-minded head coach, or B, if you're going to hire a defensive-minded guy or a John Harbaugh special teams type guy, he better have the offensive coordinator signed, sealed, and delivered he's going to bring with him, because you know this guy's a quarterback whisperer.
Yep.
That can develop Caleb Williams. So, Matt Eberflus out in Chicago. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions Fine Jewelry. The Gamecock women. You go out to Westwood, you get beat by UCLA to snap your 43-game win streak, correct?
That is correct.
And, you got beat pretty sound by UCLA, who's a very good team. Eventually, this is going to happen. So it's not a shock that you lost to UCLA on the road. But obviously, Dawn Staley had some messages to send after that game.
A few. Ones that we probably couldn't air on the radio.
And what happened yesterday, Tyler?
I don't want to call it a beatdown. I want to call it a mauling, a dismemberment of sorts. It was ugly for Iowa State.
Did you ever watch the movie Seven?
I don't think so.
It sort of looked like one of the one of the killings in the movie Seven. It was, wow, 32-0 run on the number 15th ranked team in the country. An assault.
They scored single digits, 9 points in the first half.
Here's Dawn Staley talking about the massive beatdown of Iowa State. Cut 30, Tyler.
You know, it's a privilege to coach Powell. That's one. Two, when you have three pretty darn good point guards, like you really can't go wrong. Powell, Raven, now Maddie, they do a great job at picking up where the other one left off. Or if the other one is not having, that type of game, they can kind of see it and fill in for each other. But Powell, her defense was more impressive to me than her ability to facilitate. I've seen her facilitate before. I've never seen her pick up 94 feet time and time again when we subbed out Raven. That's usually Raven's job to do that. But Powell made a concerted effort to do it in practice the last 2 days. That's one of the things. We got affirmations, and one of her affirmations was, I want to do a better job picking up the ball and pressuring the basketball. And when you're able to see it come to fruition, you know she's going to be a better basketball player. I know her stock went up from a WNBA standpoint because of what she did today in picking that ball up.
It's a nice way to put it. Affirmations, Tyler. There were affirmations after the UCLA game, sir.
They affirmed something all right.
Well, Ratty, Iowa State shot 23% from the floor, 17% from three. South Carolina had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 players score at least 6 points.
Yep.
The rebounding-wise, South Carolina pulled down 46 boards to Iowa State's 32. South Carolina, in this basketball game, had 13 offensive rebounds as well.
Again, this isn't, Coppin State from a couple weeks ago. This is the number 15 team in the country, Iowa State. A lot of good players on that team, and they just dog-walked them.
45% from the floor, 35% from three, 85% from the line, almost 86% from the line. You want to talk about getting attention? I think Dawn got their attention.
They're awake now.
Yeah.
The mark of this team is slow starts and not really hitting your stride till about halftime. They were on it yesterday.
Yep. They were awake. And to the credit of the men, they a couple days ago, we had a chance to talk to beat Virginia Tech in a game they not must win, but it was just you needed to get that W just to make everybody feel good.
And a W against a quality opponent in Virginia Tech.
So you went 1-1 at Fort Myers. You're 4-3 on the year. You got to win against a team that it just felt good to get that win. And so a nice job by the South Carolina men. All right, halftime show. We'll time to do a little wagering, Tyler Head.
Yep.
With our buddy Corey Parson, our wagering expert. That is coming up next here on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. Rivalry Week, sponsored by Columbia Craft. We're rolling up until 6 with Rivalry Week officially right here on the game. All righty. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Time to drop down a little game picking. Which so far, Corey and Tyler have been much better than me against the spread. I'm doing okay picking games like Gamecock Central.
Wes was actually kind of frustrated this morning about the fact that nobody's going to be able to catch you.
I know. That one, I've got that locked up. I get prize money, right? And a trophy?
No. Take that up with Jack.
But but picking against the spread, that's where you and Corey are killing me. Get Corey in here. Hey, man, what's going on there, Corey Parson? How you doing, pal?
What's going on, Terry? What's up, Tyler? Last week wasn't a great week, but the Cowboys were able to pull off the victory. But I think we saw last night, gentlemen, that the NFL has a head coaching problem because these guys can't even manage the game no more.
Well, Corey, are you throwing your hat in the ring for Bears head coaching position? Because you're probably better than Eberflus.
I would have got him to a field goal last night. Like, we would have at least had a field goal attempt.
Right,
I would have been able to call a timeout and then be like, okay, send the field goal unit on.
Not difficult. That last minute was not difficult to manage. Absolutely. All right, my man, you ready? We got your 3 for you. You set?
Let's go.
All right, we got 2 college in the NFL for you. All right, we will start off with Ohio State and Michigan. Ohio State's given 19.5. When's the last time Michigan was getting 19.5? About maybe 5 years ago, 5-6 years ago, maybe?
I mean, such an important rivalry, big rivalry, definitely doesn't have the cachet this year. We've seen head coaches lose their jobs because they can't win this game. This game has given us national championship contenders, Heisman trophies. This year, not so much. I am still going to take 19.5 with Michigan. I can't wrap my head around this rivalry being this one-sided this year, that this is a 3-touchdown lay right here for the Buckeyes. I'm gonna take Michigan, and I'm not too happy about it, but I will go with the Wolverines.
Now, Corey, before you make that pick, there's a lot of talk that Ryan Day, they're going to have the starters in with 7 seconds left in the fourth quarter to try to run the score up on Michigan. Because Ryan Day, these losses to the Wolverines have been painful. Here's the cut. Play it, Tyler.
We got to have, that edge, and we will, because we know what's at stake. I mean, we've felt what it's like to not win this game, and it's bad. It's one of the worst things that's happened to me in my life, quite honestly, other than losing my father and a few other things. Like, it's quite honestly, for my family, the worst thing that's happened. So we can never have that happen again, ever. And that's been the approach all season.
One of the worst things that's ever happened to his family, Corey. It's almost right up there with losing his father.
I guess Lou Holtz really took a toll on him.
All right, so you're going with Ohio State. You're taking Michigan, rather. Michigan in the 19.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Wolverines getting the 19.5.
All right, Miami is giving Syracuse 11 in the Dome at Syracuse. Miami's got to win. Syracuse, though, man, if they can pull a W here, that's win number 9 on the season for Fran Brown. You're going to go. What are you going to do with that 11 points, my friend?
Yeah, I'm going to take the 11 right here. Miami's been a terrible ATS team for the most part this season. They've had games where they look disinterested. Miami will do enough to win the football game, but I think this is a bigger moment for Syracuse right here.
All right, final one for you. NFL, Cincinnati's giving Pittsburgh 3. I'm not going to say you can take the under because every Pittsburgh game you should take the under. But Bengals are laying 3 to the Steelers. Where are you at?
And this is funny right here to me when you look at this game right here. And it seems to be this thought process around the NFL bettors, or NFL fans, that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to turn it around. No, I think the mask finally fell off. Zach Taylor's done a terrible job with this team. Joe Burrow, for years, has been able to cover it up. Not so much the case this year. Now, one thing about the Steelers is they are never going to blow anybody out. Every game, Pittsburgh Steelers game, is going to be a close game. And with Cincinnati's weapons on offense, I can see how you can think that Cincinnati can score a late touchdown and win this game. But this comes down to the sidelines for me, and I'm going to go with Mike Tomlin over Zach Taylor every time, and every really measure looks like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So whether it's the fact that Pittsburgh is a great division underdog, Pittsburgh has been excellent on the road this year, Pittsburgh always plays well as an underdog, and Cincinnati's been a terrible favorite through the Joe Burrow era. So this is a play to Pittsburgh for me right here. It's a lot of sharp Las Vegas types going in the Bengals direction, but the eye test tells me the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, so you've taken the points, 3 out of 3, man. Look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you
How
go.
about that?
All right, Tyler Head, you ready?
Yep, let's go.
All right, you get Alabama, Auburn in Tuscaloosa. Bama giving 10.5.
This was played in Jordan-Hare. I might take Auburn in the points, but I think Alabama still with playoff hopes alive. They'll be on for this game. Give me Alabama to cover.
SMU at home giving 13.5 to a very Cal has just invented ways to lose games this year.
Cal's a tricky team, and they have a way of making it close like they did against Miami earlier on the season. I'll take Cal on the points on that one.
Look at you. And you get my Baltimore Ravens because I have part ownership in the team, giving 3 to a red-hot Philly team coming into Baltimore on Sunday afternoon.
So Ravens are the dog in this.
The Ravens are giving Philadelphia 3 at home.
Oh, okay. All right. I might take Philadelphia to cover on that one. Give me the Eagles.
Look at you, traitor. Anyway. All right. I'll do my NFL really quick. I get the Vikings at home. They're laying 3.5 to the Cardinals. I'm sorry. I'm not ready to buy into the Cardinals yet. I'm just not. They're 2-3 away from home. Vikings are 4-1 at home. As much as I'm always concerned Sam Darnold's going to throw 2 or 3 to the other team, I will take the Vikings at home over the Cardinals and give the points. College games I have, sir. I got Tennessee going to Nashville, giving 11 to Vanderbilt. I think Tennessee wins and Vanderbilt covers. That Tennessee offense has not impressed me in any way, shape, or form. By the way, I drew this one and threw it out. I drew the Maryland-Penn State game. Penn State's giving Maryland like 104 points, and I don't want any part of that. So mine is Southern Cal hosting Notre Dame. Notre Dame is giving Southern Cal 7.5. Southern Cal, yes, but they've hung around in games. I'll take the Trojans and the points, but Notre Dame wins.
Can I give you a quick stat for that, by the way? 6 FBS teams have led in the fourth quarter of every game this season. Southern Cal is one of them. They have 5 losses. The other 5 teams have 5 losses combined. They're in every single game. They just can't close.
Trojans have found a way to lose games as well. So I will take.
Let me ask you, fellas, what if the Trojans do close this week? What does that mean as we push into December and January as far as college football playoff?
I think Notre Dame's out. I think that's detrimental enough with the NIU loss and no conference championship game. I think they're out.
They would tumble from, 5?
5
all the way out?
You only got to tumble to 11 or 12. Yeah, it's not that far.
Honestly, I think they should be out if they lose. But is this a TV show, remember?
It is, and that's...
Who pulls a lot of TV ratings?
It's funny.
Notre Dame.
That's right.
So I think even though you can make a case that they could be out or should be out if they lose this game to a 6-5 Southern Cal squad, the College Football Playoff Committee, I think, will find a way to keep them barely in because they're Notre Dame.
Strength of having gold helmets.
Yes, just strength of touchdown Jesus. What do you think, Corey?
College football playoffs on Peacock. Okay.
There you go, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Corey Parson, good hanging out with you, brother. We'll do it again next week. Thank you, pal.
No doubt.
All right, we'll see you. Come back. Scott Hamilton from the Post and Courier. We'll get Scott's thoughts on South Carolina Clemson. That is next on the Halftime Show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the Game. We're cooking Rivalry Week here on the game, sponsored by Columbia Craft. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Hitt, sponsored by our buddies at the Men's Clinic in South Carolina. It's Football Friday here on the game. Let's get our buddy Scott Hamilton in from the Post and Courier, driving somewhere in witness relocation through the country. How you doing, bub?
I will have you know that I am headed to my hotel in lovely Greenville for tomorrow's game. I'll be posting up in Greenville. Well, it's a pretty good haul, and I got an expense out, so I'll say what the heck it is. Hey. But I will tell you, though, I'm not staying in Clemson because I don't have that kind of expense account.
You say, is the expense account enough to get me a room, too?
Well, ain't nothing free, brother. We can talk and work something out. Hey, by the way, and because I'm a prudent guy. I like to think I'm a prudent guy. I'm already making plans for the Masters in April and all that. And I'm usually with a group of people. We rent a house, and we've had the same house for 20 years now. But just for giggles, I decided to look up how much it would cost to get a hotel in Augusta for 5 nights the week of the Masters. Now, we're not talking a resort. It's Augusta. Nothing against the fine place of Augusta, all the good people in Augusta, but it's a Hampton Inn. Do you want to take a guess at how much that 5-day total would be?
I'm going to $5,000.
$14,900.
Whoa, are you serious?
I am dead serious.
A Hampton Inn. No offense to a Hampton Inn. A Hampton Inn.
No offense. $14,900 to stay. You check in on Wednesday, you're out on Monday. No, wait, that might be Tuesday, out on Sunday morning, which, everybody leaves in the hour.
Yeah.
14 brother. 14,
wow.
9.
So when you booked? So you booked at the Hampton Inn? Is that what you're telling me? You're into Hampton Inn?
If I had $14,900, I would not spend it. I would sleep in the car and say, "Let me keep the cash." And actually,
right.
I don't know. I mean, look, you've been in the Carolinas what, 3 years now?
3 years.
Okay. Have you made it out to the Masters yet?
No, I haven't had a chance to get there yet. I could have gone year one. I was going to go out to the practice rounds or whatever. I didn't get a chance to go. So no, I have not been there yet, sir.
Dude, you got to go, man. I mean, everybody should go. Look, you were in Kentucky. Did you go to the Derby? Kentucky Derby. Did you make it to the Kentucky Derby?
No, I left Kentucky before the Derby.
Okay, so there are certain things on your bucket list that can be a pain, but you're obligated as a human being, not just a sports fan, to attend. One of them is the Kentucky Derby, but most definitely atop that list is the Masters because it's really cool, dude.
Yeah, I've heard
amazing.
I need to go. I've heard you're like the 17,000th person that told me I got to get my tail to Augusta.
I've been many, many, many times. I love it. And what's really cool, Terry, and then we'll get on to whatever topic you want to chase today. What's really cool is when you go to the Masters and it's a pressure cooker, everybody's on their best behavior and you're minding your P's and Q's and this, that, and the other. And then you go on down to Hilton Head at Harbor Town for the cocktail party that is the Heritage, where Augusta's the hilliest place ever, man. I mean, you talk about a leg workout, your calves are burning, dude, when you just walk in that course. And then you go to Harbor Town where it's just so flat and perfect and the most chill environment, and the only thing you have to worry about is like tripping over Spanish moss with a cocktail in your hand. Dude, I'm telling you, there's nothing like it. And if you really want to have, it's like thinking like this, like you do a hot shower, then a cold water plunge, or maybe vice versa. It's kind of like that. Both are good, but in their own way.
Nice. I like that. Nobody wants to spill their cocktail. You lick that off the ground, depending on how much it cost. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, and they won't hold you hostage down there. I am just a fan. I am just a fan of the Heritage, man.
All right, Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier with us.
Let's go.
All right, man. I'll make this simple. First deal: South Carolina going to upstate. What do you see happening on Saturday?
Whew. I think we're going to see a bloody knuckle game. I really do, because Clemson's had its issues health-wise on the offensive line. But they're going to have to bring that, because the South Carolina defensive line is I would put that up against it's top 5 in the country. I'm comfortable saying that. I mean, those guys get at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Clemson's going to have to establish some kind of run presence with Maffa. Otherwise, Clemson could be in for a very long day, brother. A very long day. And it's kind of the same when you flip it. And Clemson's on defense, South Carolina's on offense. But the difference is I think the Gamecocks have cracked the code with really leveraging the gifts that Lenore Sella has. And we talked about it last week, Terry. When he's cooking with Rocket Sanders, you get that Arkansas 2022, 2021 vibe when those guys, they win 9 games that year, 10 games?
Yeah,
Arkansas
9 games.
Good.
Uh-huh. Absolutely.
It gives me that kind of vibe. And, the offense has got those Kendall Briles, Art Briles aspects to it where there's always a power run game component that people really overlook. And that's the thing that Dow Loggins has really, really figured out how to do. And I'm expecting a game similar to what we saw at Kentucky, except unlike the Wildcats, I think Clemson will at least try to hit them back.
Scott Hamilton with us, Post and Courier. All right, so you're jumping off column on the Post and Courier. One thing you bring up is about SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey going to Twitter, yelling about his conference's strength of schedule. This thing, depending on how it plays out the next couple of weeks, the SEC might not get as many teams in as they were hoping they'd get in the college football playoff.
I think the strength of schedule thing is overrated, dude. I really do, because the schedules are made, first of all, at least from the non-conference side, and in conference with those realignment, the non-conference side, they're made years in advance. And you look at some of these games, like it's not the fault of, let's say Texas. I'll say Texas, as an example. It's not Texas's fault that Michigan sucks. That was supposed to be a great game. And I guess it's not a great example. The committee's given Texas a pass to this point. But if you change the logo, you change the brand, how do we look at Texas right now? We look at them like they're Indiana. How we look at them. Who have they beaten? Who have they beaten? In one test they had, they got curb stomped from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So you change the brand. If we put them down as resume A, we put Indiana down as resume B, we wouldn't know which was which.
I
So
know.
this whole strength of schedule thing needs to go out the window, man. It needs to go out the window. And Sankey going on Twitter, he shouldn't have to tout the virtues of the Southeastern Conference. Okay? He shouldn't have to do that. And I think all it does is drum up some already jealous feelings from people elsewhere when it comes to the SEC. He needs to just let the league cook, man. Because at the end of the day, I'm praying that the good people on the College Football Selection Committee realize that, A, the eye test is important, but B, we need to reward good wins more than we penalize losses. You get what I'm saying?
I get you. I like that.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Well, you know what? You could never be on the College Football Playoff Committee because you're using sense and logic, and we've realized that really doesn't matter.
I hear you, brother. Well, Sonny brought up an interesting question the other day. Let's say you're a college football independent, and you schedule nothing but Power 4 opponents, 12 games, and you go 6-6. How would you judge me? Because you had a lot of opportunities, and you won 6 games more than any other team in the country against Power 4 opponents, quality Power 4 opponents. Let's say that. How would you judge me for the 6 losses? It's all about opportunity, Terry Ford.
Very interesting. Look at you. Now I'm sitting here thinking.
I'm an interesting guy, man.
Well, let's not get crazy about you being an interesting guy. You're getting a little sideways. We gotta get out of here, my friend. Always good hanging out with you, Scott Hamilton, Post and Courier. We'll have him back again next week in the 2:00 hour as well. Our Firehouse Sub text the hour. We might even talk to Jay Phillips. Who knows before we get out of here on our handoff to Little Pigs on Alpine. It is the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head. Rivalry Week, our final segment of the week, coming up next here on the game.
Yeah, I think just in general, and I've said this from day one, I think when you have two programs as large as these two programs are, as close to each other as they are, it doesn't make a ton of sense for them not to play. So it always felt weird not playing. And so now to be playing and to be playing for what we're playing for, I'd imagine it'll be pretty electric Saturday.
Yeah, College Station will be on fire. We'll get to that in a second. At our Firehouse Subtext, the hour 803-446-100. Tyler had Terry Ford halftime show. Jay Phillips is hanging out.
Howdy.
Okay.
Yep.
You feel like these folks, the cult at College Station should be lathered up for this thing, right?
Well, they both should.
It's for a trip to the college football playoff.
Pretty much.
Texas, well, no, trip to the SEC championship game. I think Texas is in the college football playoff.
I think so too.
I believe so.
I think they are. Even if they lose, I still think Texas should get the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I think they will too. Even though
not sure they
should. In their two real tests, they would lose both of them.
Yes.
Can Texas A&M actually seal the deal in this football game? They are a program who has been built on the tradition of not winning these type of games.
Correct.
So, A&M pull this thing off?
I think they can. Texas is what, about a touchdown favorite?
Yeah, something like that. Last time I looked on double check it.
I mean, certainly they can. And with the way this season has gone, we really do not, in my opinion, have any truly just elite teams that seem to be playing just head and shoulders above others. Say the way Georgia did a couple of years ago, or the strongest Bama teams. I like A&M's opportunity to fix what they can fix, because I think a lot of the things they did against Auburn, they just didn't play well. Auburn is better perhaps than their record may indicate from a talent perspective.
And they're at home. Goofy stuff happens there, man.
But how electric, as you kind of pointed out, how lathered up Kyle Field and those fans can be matters some.
Yeah, I
some.
would think.
But you know what, Texas, man, I like Texas. When Georgia went in and handled them the way they did, it did not overly surprise me. And beyond that, Terry, they haven't lost. So
and to be fair, they really haven't. I mean, they've been killing people with their schedule.
Their schedule strength. I mean, look, I saw Greg Sankey's chart, and of the top 15, and Carolina at that point was on the outside looking at, because Carolina's schedule strength right now is like 12. But Texas, like of the top 15, he ranked them by schedule strength instead of how the committee ranks them. And the 6 schools that were ranked in the top 15 all had the strongest strength of schedule. Texas was the lowest rated strength of schedule of any SEC team.
Right.
I think it was in the mid 30s. Tyler, does that sound right?
Yeah, something like that. It's not the highest.
Yeah, so, but I like what they're doing. I like what Sark is doing. They do have some great athletes. Texas is, I would think, the better football team. But if you can get Reed going and you get that Texas A&M defense to create a little havoc, I just think that A&M shows too many ways for you to beat them. You think about the Carolina game, the adjustments Carolina made. A&M didn't score in the second half. Now, they were driving a couple of times, but they didn't score. Again, against Auburn, really, you're better than Auburn. You should not have lost that game.
Yeah, you shouldn't lose that game. That's what A&M does.
But yeah, and if they lose tomorrow, Terry, guess what their record?
8-4, like always. That's what they do in College Station, baby. Where are you going, Tyler? A&M or Texas?
Oh, I'm A&M. I called this all the way back in the summertime before we knew even how good A&M could be. I just think the element of playing at home and just how much they've been waiting on this game for the past 13 years. I don't know. I just feel like this is A&M's game.
I feel like that, and I feel like Texas, to me, and you're right, they're more talented on paper than A&M. They just haven't proven anything to me, but they can whoop mediocre and bad teams all year. The one time they had a true test, and that game, was in Austin.
Yes.
And they got popped.
And let's look at it in the past couple weeks against Arkansas and against Texas. They won, but did they win the way you thought Texas was going to win that game?
No.
Probably not.
Not really. All right, they got a little game going up north here on Saturday, and we stopped. We got a football expert, a guy named Shane Beamer, give us the keys to the game on Saturday, and we'll have Tyler fire that up real quick.
Get some injured guys healthy so we can be at our best on Saturday, and then for us, just continue to handle the I don't want to call it distractions, but it's a different week. It's Thanksgiving. Our guys aren't in class. So continue to handle the week the right way so we can be at our very best on Saturday to play really, really well as well. And appreciate you saying that. It's been an awesome year. It's not over yet. We still have a lot of work to still accomplish this season.
How you feeling about this thing on Saturday? You feeling good?
Very good.
I do too. I feel good. I think they're playing better than Clemson right now.
Yes.
They've been tested more than Clemson all year, and they passed a lot more tests than Clemson has.
Yes.
3, they're healthier. And I think that this is just look, maybe this is a goofy intangible, and maybe, I don't know, I had too much apple pie last night. I just feel like there is a vibe to this football team that's just different, man. Maybe it's the veterans they have. Maybe it's the fact that the offense has stepped up so much since that bye week.
Could be.
I just feel like South Carolina wins this football game, Jay, if they don't shoot themselves in the feet.
Agreed.
Would you say this is maybe the first time since maybe 2012 that Carolina might be able to say they walk in with the better team to this matchup?
12 and 13. Yeah.
I mean, Clemson was ranked ahead of them in 13.
In 13, yeah. But I guess that game was here. Boy, that Carolina team was really good, man. Yeah. But listen, I've been around this thing quite literally the whole time, at least for my lifetime. I think this is the biggest one yet, y'all. Hey, I genuinely do.
What's at stake? By the way, our little Twitter X poll, 58% of the people expect a W but are still nervous.
Well, you should be nervous.
Should you be nervous?
Yeah, you're not playing Daniel High.
Post-game show is next with Jay and Elijah. Nice job, Tyler. Good work, my man.